Something that's kind of crazy to think about, I've had this YouTube account since the first or second week of January 2007. I was a pretty early adopter of this stuff. And this inadvertently became my longest tenured social media account. And what started out as me bombing around innocently in Champ Car Challenge, which was a mod for F1 Challenge released by IDT Software back in the day, progressed into me manifesting at random with either stories I'd found or just something unique to entertain people with. I kind of enjoy hanging out in my little corner of the internet with just 10 or 11k subs, and being able to drop something after you haven't heard from me a while with a video that gets people talking. Today you're getting one of those videos, but it's taking on a much different subject matter. I could talk about my racing season, I could talk about Dirt 2, which is what's on the screen right now, I could talk about upcoming racing sims. I know there's a lot to talk about in that regard. The truth is, none of that has even been remotely on my mind right now, and obviously the video title's given it away. This hasn't been a very good year. I turned 32 right now. I tried to celebrate it by playing a game that meant a lot to me in my teens. I wasn't feeling it. The past year of my life has been defined by substance abuse issues. Now, before you panic, I don't have substance abuse issues. Not what we're getting at here. But when the people around you do, you're kind of in it anyway. And I wanted to share a bit of my perspective on a couple different fronts to encourage anyone who comes across this that, hey, if you're the one who's struggling, this actually affects more than just you, so please consider getting help for your homie's sake. Cool? Cool. 30-second rundown. My name's Austin. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. As you can imagine, when it gets cold here and it snows, pretty much all people do is they sit around, they drink and watch hockey, or the NFL. Because yeah, that's a thing too. The NFL is huge here. Almost no one watches the CFL anymore. These circumstances, and your region may be similar, have created what's essentially multiple generations of alcoholics. I thankfully have not fallen prey to that. I'm just going to call it for what it is. I'm probably on the autism spectrum, so peer pressure just doesn't work on me. And from the time I was 16, I've just said no the entire time. Hey, do you want to try a drink? No. The end. I have more than enough hobbies to keep me occupied, like sim racing, real racing, playing guitar, Photoshop stuff, YouTube stuff. I've never felt the need to just sit and drink and watch sports the way some people never feel the need to take up tennis or golf. It's that black and white for me. As you can imagine, this is quite rare. I've never had a friend in real life, again, internet friends are a little different here, never had a friend in real life who hasn't drank excessively or hasn't experimented with hard drugs. Usually it's both. Now, from the time your buddies are, let's say, 15, 16 years old to the time they're 24, 25, I'm not saying this is okay, but they tend to fuck around with this shit, and usually nothing bad comes of it. So, of course, what I'm leading to now is that by the time they hit 31, which for me has been this past year, bad things come of it. You start realizing that because the boys have spent so much of their 20s binge drinking, experimenting with hard drugs, being reckless with their funds, even just using stuff like weed as a coping mechanism, things start getting weird. When you're growing up and you first learn what an alcoholic is and what a drunk is, what a drug addict is, what someone addicted to marijuana is, you're given visions of someone who's angry and aggressive and unpleasant to hang out with. Alcoholism and substance abuse issues I've now learned firsthand are a lot more subversive than that. I've never actually been around an angry drunk before. The problems manifest in different ways. Your homies don't really have hobbies the way you have hobbies. And it's because they can't focus on anything anymore. You may walk by guitars mounted to the wall and take them off and play them, or just strum a chord or something, and realize they're drastically out of tune. They haven't been played in months. You might jump on your boy's PlayStation or Xbox in the middle of a party just to browse through the dashboard and see he's bought games that he's never touched. No achievements unlocked, no save data started, nothing. You realize that no one's really got any creativity to plan an evening. The way you used to plan evenings, every night just kind of ends up at the sports bar or sitting in someone's backyard around the fire watching people drink. Little by little, these aren't the people you remember. Their career choices and spending habits just start to get a little odd. As a friend, I want to support my friends full stop, but to do that, I need to understand what the fuck you're trying to accomplish here. They want to make a complete 180 in their career and just chase up a completely different path, but it only really makes sense to them. They start telling you about investments they want to make or ideas they have to try and play the stock market, completely oblivious to A, how dangerous that is, and B, they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They start inviting people over who nobody has anything in common with, and better yet, nobody else even seems to realize this. And this stuff builds and builds and builds for months and months and months, if not years, until you wake up and realize, oh my god, alcohol has stolen my friends from me. And what's worse is, you ain't gonna fix it, so you really have two options at that point. If you stay with them hanging out with your friends isn't fun or fulfilling. You just get more and more annoyed that the night isn't going anywhere. But if you decide to be a bit callous and cut everyone out, whether you tell people to their face or not, you've now got a whole different set of problems. You now have basically destroyed your social life and no longer have people you can just go for wings with on a random Wednesday night. This is the path I personally took, and it's not great. You know, part of the reason I'm using Dirt 2 as like the background footage for this kind of talkie piece is to make a point. When you're 17 years old and just bombing around playing Dirt 2, you know, after school or whatever, you have this vision in your head of what life at 25 or 30 might be like, and that you'd, you know, probably get to move beyond sitting at home playing Dirt 2. On my 32nd birthday, I am still sitting at home playing Dirt 2. And you end up starting to mourn what could have been, too. This is another important part of this whole process. You start realizing that the vision you built in your head of like where these kind of mature, long-lasting friendships could go are just not going to happen. You're not going to all pick up a hobby together. You're not going to all learn to play instruments together. None of that's happening. This is just kind of who they're locked into being now, and you're not going to change that. Now, what a lot of people are probably thinking if they've either stumbled upon this video or you're someone who's followed me over the years and have gotten this far in, you're probably thinking, well, homie, you're in your 30s now. Maybe it's time to find a partner. There's a reason there's a couple minutes still left in this video. I was actually dealing with multiple substance abuse scenarios at the same time. In short, it's pretty exhausting when everyone's relapsing at once. For the past, I don't know, year and some change, I was dating a former Playboy model. What I ended up learning is that even if the person's on a sobriety streak, and nothing's wrong at all, addiction is so deeply interwoven into their life that even when their addiction's not there, this is all that's on people's minds anyway. For example, my ex's family, when they learned I didn't drink at all, they got very, very comfortable with me. Which, as a guy, like, that's an exciting milestone. It took me a bit of time to figure out that, hey, this is actually not something to get excited over. They're just relieved that when she's with you, they don't have to worry about her. Now, when relapses happen, and with addicts that is part of the process, the biggest thing I dealt with that was really disturbing was the sense of Fremdschämen you get. It's a German word for secondhand embarrassment. When you date someone with this kind of a backstory, usually you get to a point where they're very open about their struggles. You hear how their embarrassment over their past lifestyle completely eats at them. When they relapse, you actually feel their own embarrassment along with them. And especially if you see it happen in their own home or apartment, there are times you'll literally like look at the framed photos they have from when they were a teenager just on their walls or like taped to their fridge, or in this case like trophies, plaques, magazine covers, posters, and then look over at them and see them drunk, disheveled, and strung out pacing around their apartment. And seeing what that little girl grew up to be hurts just as much as having to sit there and write the breakup text. So if you identify with any of this, like, please get help. Like, just please do it for your homie's sake. It's not fun.